Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dining for Women's Google Hangout for the month of September. I am Veena Kanke, Interim Program Director for Dining for Women. With us, we have Laura Haight, the Communications Director for Dining for Women, and she's our tech guru and will be staying in the background. We also have with us representatives of Nyaka AIDS Orphans Project, and we have Tizita Asifa, who's the Major Gift Officer for Nyaka, and Daniel Reisbig, who's the Development Coordinator for Nyaka. Now, Nyaka is from the country of Uganda and came into existence in the year 2001 as a response to the huge number of AIDS orphans in Uganda. In a country of 32 million people, Uganda has about 7.5% of the population who make up these AIDS orphans. So, Nyaka, ladies, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your program?
Thank you, Veena. Thank you, Dining for Women, for having us. I'm Tizita.
I'm Danielle.
In case it was hard to guess. No, we love working for the Nyaka AIDS Orphans Project. We're really proud of it being very unique in terms of development work around the world. What we do is, and very proudly say, is that we have a holistic approach to ending the cycle of poverty. As many people know, poverty is a cycle. It's not just a one-sided answer or response to answer the issues surrounding it. Part of our programming, just to give a little bit of an overview, is healthcare. So that includes health education, reproductive health education, grief counseling, as well as receiving meds. Another part is education. So 2 primary schools. We are also in the midst of building a secondary and vocational school. One of our goals is to be able to keep pregnant teens enrolled. So that's a project I can tell you about in the future. But our focus today is the Grandmothers Program. Under the Grandmothers Program, we have all kinds of ways that we're able to offer the support that bridges the gap between the children and the grannies, because much of our children are orphaned doubly. So 90% have lost both mom and dad. And generally in Ugandan culture, once you've lost a parent, you go to the uncle to be raised. And a grandmother is, able to live her elderly years as support, but a son or daughter really sees themselves as a success if they've been able to build a home for their grandmother. And so in this case, because we have a big age gap from the ages of 15 to 59, this is the workforce, this is, the age group that really would be allowing the country to thrive economically, socially, etc. And so we get to come in and learn from the grandmothers, what is it that you need, what is it that you do, and what resources do we have to support you. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And we will start our slide presentation so you can follow along. The program that's being funded by Dining for Women graciously is called Training of Trainers. And if you don't mind. And let's skip to the next one, since we've already said that we started in 2001 and we work with 7,005 grandmothers and serve approximately 43,000 children within the 2 districts that we work in southwest rural Uganda. One of which is called Rukunjiri, and the second is called Kanungu District. And a large part of our work, the foundation of our work is really about empowerment. That is the focus, empowering a community to help themselves, essentially. So what we get to be is just the support system, but they really are doing everything. And so part of the training of trainings program is that we have caseworkers that go in and train a leader, a defined leader within 91 grandmother groups. And so then they learn all kinds of different things to support. Oh, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm playing with a new mouse. Anyway, so part of the training, as you see in this image, is that the grandmothers get together with a trainer. And there are 91 groups. They each are, by consensus, voted in, or 3 per group. And they're each voted in based on, their interests and their leadership quality and skill sets and ability to bring it back into the community. So they spend the days learning all kinds of important life and vocational skills. And we have found that learning is contagious. So here is a quick diagram of the areas in which we support: microfinance, loan, and also accounting skills, budgeting skills. Most of the community is already subsistence farmers, and so we work with, we work through best practices in farming and trade skills such as things that they've been doing their whole lives, like basket weaving, and then also introducing newer technologies within, such as using recycled paper in order to make necklaces and other types of jewelry. We also build homes, kitchens, and latrines, and those are also done based on, they're determined by the grandmother group, which granny needs it the most, and they determine it, and then we send the support in order for those to get rebuilt. Grief counseling, I mentioned before, that's really important with not only the age gap, but also in today's practices of communicating young people and elders, and not only have the grandmothers lost their own children, but now and their grandchildren have lost their parents. So grief counseling is really a big important part of it. Of course, hygiene and health, like we were saying, the pit latrines and sanitation, and making sure that our girls are able to get to school and stay in school. And then, of course, the importance of HIV, AIDS, and testing, and prevention of early pregnancy. So here are a couple of stories that tells you, that just brings it home exactly who it is that you're supporting. And Danny's going to take it away for us.
So these are just a couple of stories, but I can promise you each one of the 7,005 grandmothers have a story that's just as touching. So these are just 2 that really spoke to my heart. This is Loy. She is raising 12 grandchildren all by herself. 5 don't even go to school yet. So she's got a very busy house, but she's a leader in her granny group. She was elected as a leader, and because she was elected as a leader, she was also sent to the Trainer of Trainers program. And when she went to the program, she learned communication skills, leadership, business management, and also skills that she can translate to her group. So handcraft skills, sewing. These are things that she was already good at and that were natural talents for her, but through the training she was able to enhance them and also learn how to teach others. So she brought these tools back. She translated to 80 members in her group, and now their group is known for making the best handcrafts among all the groups. And you can see some of their handcrafts on our grandmother Etsy shop, or at the Nyaka grandmother shop on Etsy, sorry. Mm-hmm. And they're just remarkable for that. So she's become a leader, she's taught others, and in turn those individuals can teach those skills to other people so that they can make crafts and baskets that they can sell in the market, or they can sell to us, which we then sell using fair market practices. This is Candida. I love Candida. She's 75 years old, and she's raising 2 grandchildren. She has always been very skilled at making entemere basket. It's something that was a tradition that was passed down from her parents and from their parents before them. So it's very rich in her culture. but it was something that she didn't think would ever be fruitful for her. When she came to her granny group, she learned that it was actually quite the opposite. So previously she had no source of income, so we helped her understand that the skill that she had was actually a really good source of income that she could use. So she learned business skills. So when she got her grandmother grandmother loan, she was able to use that to then build a business around her basket making skills. And she teaches other women in her village this tradition. So it's keeping a cultural tradition that's really valuable alive. And it's giving her enough money that she has enough to send her 2 grandchildren to school. So she doesn't have to send them to either of our 2 primary schools. She can send them to any school in the district and be able to pay for it. And so that's one of the ways that we're trying to meet the gap between the 465 students that are in our primary schools and the 43,000 children that need to go to school. So basically what we do is we help grandmothers see their strengths, we help develop them as leaders, and we just empower them to use the skills and the trades and the knowledge that they already have to make great futures for themselves.
Those are our stories.
Yeah, and that is it. We're ready to take questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
My first question is about your grief counseling, because these grandmothers have not just lost one child, they've lost probably multiple children and, the sons-in-laws and daughters-in-law. So how extensive is the grief counseling? How does it really happen? Does it include the entire family, the children? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. It does include the entire family. So the grandmothers, what they'll do in their groups is they'll get the perspective and the support from their side and what their children might be going through, what the grandchildren might be going through. We have libraries as well on our 2 campuses that are frequently used as meeting spaces. And so there's also programs for the teenagers that allows them to have that expression and tell their story and release that, but also how to relate with and how to be able to communicate with their grandmothers as well, grandparents, I should say.
Oh, that's
and then within the grandmother groups, there's also sort of like a support network there. A lot of the grandmothers found that they felt really isolated and alone before they joined the grandmother group. And then once they did and they realized that there were other grandmothers going through the same thing, they felt more connected and it made their burden feel less heavy. So.
Okay. Now you mentioned that most of the grandmothers were subsistence farmers, so they were producing basically for the home and the family. With regards to the skills, like the basket weaving with Candida, for instance, you mentioned a shop that Nyaka has. Now, is that the only outlet, or are they on their own if they go to the marketplace? How does that work?
Well, they've got the marketplace there in Uganda, of course. They sell there, not only within their villages and districts and also in Kampala in the capital, but we're able to bring it to the U.S. through the Etsy shop. A lot of our communities as well, they do grandmother basket parties, they get together with their friends. Sometimes instead of fundraising, we call it friend raising. And so then they're able to, sell these wares, such as necklace, and a couple of, the baskets and cloths and such. And we're always looking for more innovative ways to use what skills they have already, some things that come natural to their customs, and help them to realize that, in fact, there is a market for you in the U.S. Yes, that far away in Europe and the U.S. and different parts of the world, your work is valuable. And it's beautiful, and it's functional, and we want it.
And so you've allowed them to dream.
Exactly.
With the local market, we don't play a heavy role in that, and that's by design, because we want them to be self-sufficient and sustainable. It's about empowerment, not selling your wares for you. We will obviously sell them in the U.S. because they're not going to make a trip over here, but we'd like to give them that ability to sell on their own. So.
So what role do the grandfathers play?
Grandfathers are there So I asked this to the head trainer, Mukaka Jolie, who's fabulous. It was like having a rock star in our office when she came for a visit. And we asked, so where are the grandfathers? She said, oh yeah, they're there, of course, but you know, it's the grandmothers really that make the country go round. It's the women that really make the world go round. And she said, yes, if I was to do this again, create a training of trainers, I would also do one for the grandfathers so they have a stronger role, but I would not entrust them to the money. All of the money, the budgeting, the finances belong to the grandmothers.
Okay.
Kind of a funny side, but true.
Well, you have to do what works.
We have to do what works, and it's the women, and I think, and we see this in many developing nations, is that it is the women that carry the communities to betterment of life.
Yes, they do. Let's talk about the children, because you are dealing with orphans who range in age. Can you tell us more about some of your education programs and what exactly the children have as options?
Sure. You want to take that one?
Sure.
Okay. Student.
So we have 2 primary schools that we operate, Kantamba and Nyaka. Together there's 465 children there. And then we sponsor our students to go on to secondary school so they can go to whatever secondary school that they apply to and get into, which for that we have 181 students. We have 191 students all together in secondary and vocational school. Some students opt to get vocational training. That's what they want to do. So like they want to work in like hotel management. So they'll go to a vocational school instead. We're currently in the process of building our own secondary and vocational school, which Tivita mentioned earlier. That will be able to eventually house all of our secondary students. It will allow students to stay closer to home so that they can help their grandmothers with the younger students. It'll also help them stay within their safety net when children go out to secondary schools in different areas where they don't have the support systems that we have for their specific needs. They can run into trouble. They can have trouble academically.
The pregnancies.
Yeah, they're more vulnerable to people who might want to be predatory sexually, which is a very real concern. We usually put up signs that say don't get a sugar daddy or don't go on a boda ride because you can be trafficked if you get on a motorcycle with somebody. So it's something that we are conscious about. But also the secondary school will provide grandmothers an opportunity to expand their businesses. It will have power there so they can work at night. There'll be lights. And also sewing machines. So we currently don't sell things that are made with fabrics, but this is going to allow us to expand that, to give grandmothers more avenues. So we're excited about that.
Okay. Can you address the AIDS crisis in general for Uganda at first, and then for the regions that Nyaka is working in? Because as we head into the future, you want to see fewer and fewer orphans.
Yes.
We do want to see fewer and fewer, and the numbers that we were working with in the 80s were upwards of 36-37% infection rates. And now we're looking at 6 to 7%.
Wonderful.
So in relatively short time, we've seen a big decline, and education has been a big piece of that. Probably the largest piece of it has been education, also removal of stigma. I think in all of the statistics and the stories, what stood out for me is the humanization of a person, right? The actual humanization rather than just being a number. When they were able to see that in themselves, they've done better for themselves. There isn't that division of personhood, of quality in a person because you've come down with something like an AIDS virus.
So the rate actually dropped significantly down to about 6.4% initially because of the ABC method, which is abstinence, be faithful, and use condoms. In recent years, and it was like in the last couple of years, they actually moved to an abstinence-only model, which has actually seen a rise to about 7%, even over 7%. So what we try to do in our community is dispel myths. It's still a belief that having sex with a virgin will cure you of AIDS, and a bunch of other really silly ideas, that we're trying to raise awareness about. So our children actually go out in an HIV/AIDS choir, and they go to the community. We have a local radio show. Choir. Yep, sorry, the anti-AIDS choir, and and they raise awareness that way through music and through radio, and it's also a really good way if they're teaching it to have them know the truth as well. So
yeah, it's young people getting to hear other young people seeing about it and teach about it and warn about it and also acknowledge and honor one another. That probably has to be the best teaching rather than coming from the outside or a top-down and adults only know better, or that kind of a youth empowerment as well. We've seen have far greater results than just academic education.
Well, this is probably my last question, but so when somebody has tested positive, they do have treatment options, regardless of where they live, rural or urban Uganda?
I can't speak to the whole country, but for our communities, I can speak to our communities, yes. We have the Mummy Drayton Clinic that was started by a donor out of England who just really felt like you need a central place. We had school nurses going. Now we have a clinic that actually serves the whole community. So you'll see grandmothers going and getting tested. Not necessarily because, but the awareness that says, in fact, testing and having that knowledge. So young people get tested, even grandmothers get tested, and our rates are extremely low. I'm trying to think of in the last 10 years, the number is a single digit.
Yeah, it's 6 children currently.
Yeah.
All of our children are tested frequently, and if they do contract HIV/AIDS, we provide treatment for them.
We have ARVs.
The statistics for the entire country, about 1 in 3 children who are positive for HIV/AIDS actually get treatment. It's about $100 US a year for treatment, which is just too much for so many families.
Yeah.
So they do have a serious issue with providing access to treatment, and unfortunately it's not something that we can provide to everybody, but we can promise it, at least for our students.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our Google Hangout. Nyaka, thank you so much for spending time with us on this Hangout, and we wish you luck with your program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dining for Women. We'll be seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you, well.